welcome to One on One. It's about time for us to go live once again and have a really interesting conversation. Conversations like these are really important, and especially with today's digital age. The issue of hospitality and leisure and the tourism sector is facing some unprecedented challenges. And there's some challenges that only people in the sector can discuss to a certain extent. Now, the Allianz Risk Barometer for 2024 highlights cyber incidents as the foremost risk for these industries, with a significant increase in data breaches, ransomware attacks, and threats to critical infrastructure. Now, the interconnected nature of modern business operations means that a single cyber incident can lead to widespread disruptions affecting supply chains, customer trust, and overall business continuity. Now, the report, that's the Allianz Risk Barometer 2024 report, compiles insights from over 3,000 risk management professionals and business leaders. It underscores the need for robust cybersecurity measures and resilient operational processes. Now, the rise in this it's more than just sophisticated these days. It's out of this world, the amount of cyber attacks that are happening, including those leveraging on new technologies like generative artificial intelligence. It's really heightened the urgency for businesses to enhance their detection and response capabilities. In addition to cyber risks, the industry also grapples with business interruption, regulatory changes, macroeconomic developments, and natural catastrophes. Now, these interconnected risks demand comprehensive risk management strategies to ensure the sustainability and growth of businesses in that sector. Now, today we have a special guest joining us, Mr. Ikechukwu Okugo, a seasoned business leader with over 15 years of experience in financial services, intermediation, and that includes wealth management, insurance, and advisory services. He is a versatile industry-wide expert with extensive experience leading across different areas of business. And apparently he started his professional journey in 2008 with FCMB and later transitioned into insurance, where he worked with AXA Mansard. He's also worked with Coronation, Tangerine Africa, and currently he is the group head of corporate sales at Allianz Nigeria. It's great to have you with us, Mr. Ikechukwu Okugo.
Thank you so much, Titi. It's a pleasure being here. I'm happy to be with you, and we hope to have very insightful discussion today.
So, to be honest, I was looking at the risk barometer some time back, and the numbers can be alarming. But let's talk about how this information is gathered. I've mentioned that it's collated from over 3,000 professionals, but give us a little insight into how this information is gathered.
Okay, thank you. So the risk barometer is a business research that focuses on risk globally. So it focuses on risk across 92 countries, such that we interview over 3,000 risk professionals, which would include the CEOs, the MDs, risk managers, and other industry leaders. We ask them for potential risk that could occur in the country or what they foresee could happen. So based on questionnaires that we generate from these answers, we're able to then project and inform people that, oh, this is what to expect, this is what to look out for in the coming years. And true to that, we've been seeing positive relationship to those questionnaires and the outcome in every country that we have done this barometer. So Allianz has invested so much in this, ensuring that people everywhere get informed, where you're aware of not just the global risk, also risks that are local to where you operate, your country, so that small businesses, medium businesses, large businesses can better prepare and understand how to go about such an event if they do occur.
Okay, so now we call it a barometer. It's a risk barometer, and it's been given a focus on many different industries. The industry in focus today is hospitality, leisure, and tourism sectors. Now, these sectors have come alive over the past few years, especially here in Nigeria. In Lagos, for instance, one of the risks people didn't really see coming, but was always there. For instance, if you make reference to what's happening to the Oniru Beach area of Lagos. So let's talk about the significance of this risk barometer for those sectors. Give us an
Okay.
overview.
So for every sector, there are risks associated with every sector. For the hospitality, tourism, and leisure sector, I mean, at the time, COVID affected what was going on in that space. When the pandemic hit, that sector probably just witnessed a dwindle in what they were doing at that period. And a lot of people were not able to go out, a lot of people were not able to visit. But after the pandemic was declared free for everyone to go, the sector witnessed an upsurge in people traveling and going out. Now, but one thing that people did not see coming was the rise in cyber attack that sector was going to face. Now, because that sector typically generates a lot of customer data, a lot of sensitive information that would reach out to your emails, your phone numbers, and all those things. That sector has come under increasingly attack by malware hackers. So a lot of people are increasingly getting more interested in generating data from that sector, and there's been insistent attacks on that sector. So, for example, in the year 2023, we witnessed about 50% rise in insurance claim globally, particularly from that sector. Major hotels all over the country are currently being attacked, and hackers are targeting those companies. So we are always careful of what happens out there. So that sector is coming under increasing attack by hackers everywhere.
So it's not a sector that you would assume was being targeted. You make the assumptions for banking, you make the assumptions for even medical, you make the assumptions for maybe even petrochem, but for hospitality, it just feels like an industry that isn't so. I do understand that with things like when I think hospitality, I don't think anything more than bookings,
Mm.
booking details and travel details and that kind of thing. I don't really think too much of it being a cyber concern. Could you break down why that is in
Okay.
2024?
So, before 2023, in 2022, cyber was not a major concern for that sector. Cyber wasn't. Up until 2023, there was a great increase in cyber attacks. So we saw a trend. Major hotels were being hacked, and now, so when you look at that sector, hospitality, leisure, and tourism, we're considering major hotels, major tourist destinations, and other leisure parts that people would typically visit or go on a vacation to. And now these hotels attract a lot of customers, right? And last year, about $100 million or more was paid out in insurance claims because these hotels were making claims as to breaches in data. Now, sometimes these hotels may not even be aware that there have been breaches in their software. So because they would use website, most times when you want to book for your hotel reservations, you probably use a website. You go to their website, you go to bookings.com. So those are the targets. The hackers look out for those websites. They find loopholes in those websites where they are able to gain access to the data center of that hotel, and they are able to then access customer information and use it. Probably they will tell you that, oh, if you quickly book right now, you get a room reserved for you. Meanwhile, that information is not coming from the hotel itself. And
Wow.
then you make a payment to wherever they would want you to make that payment. So many hotels have been witnessing such attacks, but some have been really afraid to come out and make those kind of declarations that, oh, my hotel is probably under attack and all of that, until some hotels were fined for not declaring at some time. So that's why it's always great for people to have early detection. We always recommend that you must always prevent it before it comes. And if you are not able to prevent it, when it does happen, you must be able to put some measures to detect it early before it becomes worse. So that sector, yes, not an ordinary sector everyone would want to pay attention to and assume that cyber would grow, but cyber featured heavily in that space in 2023, and now cyber became a new risk. It wasn't a risk before. It became a new risk introduced into the barometer. Not only did it become a new risk, it climbed to the very top,
Wow.
right? So, I mean, if you have 20 risks, cyber became a new one, then climbed to the very top with about 36% of respondents saying this is a major risk that we must pay attention to going into 2024.
And that's exactly what Allianz is doing now, putting a spotlight on this particular industry. If you're just tuning in, we're essentially talking about the cyber risks associated with this, the cyber concerns when it comes to the hospitality, leisure, and tourism sector. Mr. Ikechukwu Okugo here talking to us, and he's from Allianz Nigeria. Now, I have to ask about the average supply chain of a hospitality business, because in the end, we understand how cyber attacks work with the average business owner, a small SME owner, maybe someone who imports or exports goods. The supply chain is easier to understand. So these cyber risks now, if you, for instance, you're a hotel owner or you have a tourism-based business, what should you truly be concerned about? Which area of the supply chain should you be concerned about these cyber attacks affecting?
Okay, so for business owners, we always recommend, particularly for this kind of sector, we recommend certain things to put in place. We would recommend segmentation of data. Now, data should not be concentrated in a particular place. Now, when it comes to cyber attacks in hospitality, leisure, and tourism, what the attackers are always looking out for are the hotel managers, people who have access to this customer database. Now, in trying to get to that point, you must be able to segment your data so that where you put sensitive information is different from where you put certain kind of information. Now, the supply chain is such that you have the customers. Yeah, they are the ones that would probably be booking their reservations through your website, through your app, through third-party apps. Now, so you have the customer direct as one of the supply chain. You also have third-party apps, so APIs that integrate into your own website. So you need to be sure or authenticate the security level of the third-party vendor that you're working with, because they, for example, could go after Booking.com, and if Booking.com is breached, it then affects your own cyber risk. Now, when we were having mobile phones being designed, they weren't designed with a lot of cyber security thought about. People were designing mobile phones because of ease of use, because of simplicity and the easiness and the quickness to solve problems. However, in the speed at which we were developing those mobile phones, we did not consider this integration of cyber risk in those mobile phones, and that's why with a customer that has a phone, if one hacker has access to that phone, he probably would go ahead and maybe, and so the hotel would assume, oh, the customer is making a reservation, not knowing that it's coming from a fraudulent person. So you must also watch all the supply chains, what you connect your apps to, what you connect your website to, third parties that feed in. Cyber is very prominent now, and people must pay attention to it, irrespective of wherever you operate.
Mm. So let's talk about how we can. So in 2024, one of the most common things to hear about now is AI, artificial intelligence comes to play here. Is there any way businesses can leverage on AI, artificial intelligence, to enhance this detection and maybe even their response to this issue?
No, so while AI is fantastic, is great, AI also can be used for both good and bad motives, bad reasons. Yeah, businesses can leverage on generative AI to understand how to go about their business continuity plan, how to be resilient in making sure their operations are serving their larger customers, and to minimize supply chain disruption. That is how businesses can leverage on AI. Remember, as businesses are trying to get information through AI, other people with malicious intent are also probably using AI to generate ideas on how to go about finding some loopholes in the operations of certain businesses. So AI is a good concept, but I would advise that while businesses focus on AI, it is also important for them to realize that AI can also be used in a means to, disrupt their operations. Cyber criminals could also take advantage of AI in trying to get access to their customer database. So we always recommend people that have a form of knowledge of AI, have a form of understanding of what AI can do, and always try to make sure that you are resilient. We advise training is very important. I mean, while using AI, you must always train your employees to be cyber security conscious. You must always train them not to take on tasks that they are not prepared for, things that they are not sure about, things that they don't know where the source is. They must always query all of those things. So we must be careful how we deploy AI and knowful that other cyber criminals are using AI to get access into our own software.
So I have something on the screen there. I hope you can see there. It's from the Allianz website there. And I went on to the tab that said top 10 global business risks. And it puts cyber incidents at the very top. 36% of the risks detected. The top risk here is cyber incidents. And I think that this has shifted over the years. I think things like fire and explosion and the natural catastrophes were mostly at the top of the risk people were addressing, to the best of my knowledge. Or am I wrong?
No, no, you're correct. So the risk, the barometer is done in a way, structured in a way that we have the global risk, that we look at the top 10 global risks. Cyber tops everywhere in the world, both in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, everywhere. Cyber tops the risk, followed by business interruption. Now, business interruption is linked to the recent wars we've been experiencing in Europe, the Israel-Hamas war, the Russia-Ukraine war. All of these things took a uptick after the pandemic. So the pandemic started the interruption when we all had to stay back at home. We had to ensure that we stayed indoors. So that led to some form of supply chain disruption and business interruption. Then the wars came in, and those that made that rise. So for like 2-3 years, in the last 2-3 years, we are seeing an uptick in business interruption and cyber. Natural catastrophe deals happens to be localized. It depends on what part of the region you are looking at, depends on the continent you are looking at. So this top risk will typically be tilted more towards Asia. Now, if you come home to Nigeria or to Africa, the dynamics is a bit different. Right, in Nigeria, you have cyber incidents, you have business interruption, then you then have macroeconomic indications where you have the inflation, unemployment, and all of that. In the last year, 2022-2023, political violence was a heightened risk because of the elections that was to happen in 2023, but that took a downward trend up to the fourth or number 5 after the election was won and the tension went down. So it depends on where you're looking from, but on a global scale, this is what tops the risk in the barometer. But if you then want to specify which of the countries you are particularly interested about, if you're looking at Senegal, if you're looking at Egypt, if you're looking at Nigeria, it will change. But typically, cyber dominates across every continent.
Okay, we'll definitely be coming back to this issue of incidents in focus, but I was hoping we could give some kind of tips, some kind of advice to business owners presently who are probably watching this or listening to this right now and realizing, you know what, I need some kind of strategy in my hospitality business to overcome, the what ifs that are out there. So, talk to us about the what ifs. What can they do to alleviate some of these risks?
Okay, so businesses need to plan. What would I advise businesses is that you need to have a business continuity plan. You need to also plan for the worst case scenario. You need to plan for the best case scenario. You need to plan for the base level. So, I mean, cyber is a threat that we must realize that has come to live with us as technology keeps advancing, as technology keeps improving around or making our lives better. One of the things we must not fail to remember is that that technology, as well as good as it is very beneficial to our businesses, it also has its own harms. It comes with a double-edged sword. So while businesses are aware of that, you must plan. You must have a plan that is able to foresee certain events and say, oh, if there are breaches to my own data, how am I going to go about it? So because you also know that data is key, data is king, data is what everybody feeds on, you must be able to use data to your advantage, and you must not save sensitive data in certain places. So you must try to segment your data. right? It is not advisable to have all of your data in one bucket. You must segment your data. You must also take advantage of the multi-authentication process. You don't, for people who have businesses that like hospitality, hotels, you don't just rely on maybe phones or OTPs. You can also use an email as a double checker to ensure that whoever you're speaking to is the real person, not someone who is acting or impersonating the right customer. So businesses must plan, they must also segment their data, they must also employ the use of multi-factor authentication process, and they must be ready for whatever it is come their way. And again, one thing we always tell people that risk is something that you must be mindful of, and you must try to transfer that risk. So at Allianz, we also have a means of absorbing that risk. We always recommend to businesses that they must ensure that that risk that they are worried about, they transfer it to competent insurance professionals like Allianz Nigeria and Allianz Global. Allianz is specialized in taking care of those risks that where it is gone past prevention stage, where you're unable to prevent it and the risk actually crystallizes, Allianz will then come in and take over that indemnification process for you.
So there have definitely over the past few years been so many different upticks, differences, changes, and exchanges. But I feel some issues are still of a concern. We are talking cyber today, but there are still other future-proofing operations that we need to put in place. In your view, what are those key components that are essential for successful risk management strategy? I know you've touched on Allianz, making sure that you have a company like Allianz going through this with you and at least having conversation with professionals. But what else can people in this sector, talking leisure, hospitality, and tourism, what else can they do?
So they need to also employ risk assessment. You must invest in risk assessment. You must know the kind of risk you want to take on. So sometimes you need to segment your risk. You have what we call high risk, low risk, and medium risk. So if you're in hospitality, we would advise you, I mean, know the kind of customers you want to deal with, know the kind of partners you want to deal with, identify the strength of the partner, identify what risk as a mitigation measure that that partner has in place. You must be able to synergize with people who take security as a priority. If you don't have security as a priority, then it would be advisable not to have a partner as like that. Again, when you are going into a business, you are in there to make profit, and whatever is associated with not making profits, you don't want to be part of. So you must selectively pick your partners that understand what risk assessment is, how they are able to mitigate their risk, and that is one of the things you must do when you're in hospitality. As a hotel, it's not advisable to open your doors to everybody, right? A lot of people, a lot of partners will come with great ideas. They will tell you, oh, we can help you do this, we can help you solve this, we can help you solve that. Just integrate your API to us. We would bring you more customers, would expand your scope, would expand your reach, and all of that. You must be careful that these partners do not expose you unduly to cyber threats, because that is one risk you don't want to be caught unawares of. So the kind of partner you work with is very key. The kind of access, the kind of way you channel your distribution. So your distribution channel also matters. If you're going to sell your tickets, or if you want to invest in selling your ticket through the website, you must ensure that your website is fully secure and there are no breaches. You must monitor your website at all times. You must ensure that you have the right IT personnel that can take good care of your data, so that there are no internal connivance where people internally, employees internally would work with outsiders and grant information. So even when you have employees, you must train them carefully. You must ensure that those employees do not have full access to all of the data in one place. You must ensure that you segment that data. So within your company, you must take those risks. Outside your company, with the kind of partners you want to deal with, you must not, and your channel of distribution, you must be careful to select the right channels that would minimize your risk out there. In as much as you are trying to pursue profits, you must also look at minimizing your risk at all times.
minimizing risk is something that the average person should understand by now, especially when going into business. But Nigeria, West Africa, Africa generally is a very temperamental climate. You just never know what could come up. We've talked a lot about cyber risks today, but I wanted to still touch on the other issues like natural catastrophes, what we in Nigeria have called natural disasters for many years. We don't have any by God's grace, but floods, earthquakes, wildfires all over the world have always been a factor, have been factored in to business risk. But what exactly are the steps that you should take should any of those situations occur in any business? What does a business owner, what's the first thing they're supposed to do if they find themselves in that situation?
Okay, so in the event of natural catastrophe, I mean, typically in Nigeria, we don't have any significant record of such. Um, Sorry, but however, when if a business is faced with such event, I mean, one of the things you need to do is to take a stock of what is not available at that time. You must be able to ensure that you've actually done a bit of business stock. So your stock keeping, you must know what is missing and what is not missing. So based on what you know, based on that information, you then take on steps on how do I go about solving this problem. Now, the idea is to salvage as much as you can salvage in the event of a natural disaster or a natural salvage as much as you can, ensure that you are able to save as much without risking your life or anyone's life in that process. But you
Is that
start.
the same for cyber? So you in the case of physical natural catastrophes, things you can see and touch, you try and salvage what you can. But in issues of cyber, it feels like the average person is helpless at this point.
No, so for cyber, you can prevent it before it happens, right?
Hmm. But
If
once
you
it
have to,
happened,
but once it happens, I mean, again, for cyber, once it happens, early detection also matters. Once it happens, you sometimes you might not even know that there are breaches in your system. So for some hackers, what they do, they are very good at not allowing you to be aware that something is going on. So they are taking out from you little by little without making you understand that there's significant risk going on. So they do that for years, for months, for years, and at the time you realize that a lot has been taken out of you. So again, cyber is early detection that matters. If you detect it early, then you probably can stop it. But if you don't, at the point when you then detect it, I mean, all you have to do is to come out clean and explain what has happened. So cyber is quite tricky because you might not even be aware that it is happening. Sometimes you might be aware, and that's when, you then have to make a loud noise. Oh, this has happened to me. I'm losing this. I've lost this because of this breaches. Many companies are really afraid about talking about cyber because of reputational risk. If they go public and make an announcement that, oh, this happened to my business was in breach of this. Remember, that breach is coming from the data that they have about customers.
sure.
Customers would then feel unsafe and insecure with them, and probably that would affect their revenue. So companies are always careful in making some statement about cyber. But we are in an age right now where we encourage people to talk about it. I mean, in the advanced world, they talk about it freely. Where there are breaches, they come out clean and they tell you, oh, this is what has happened and all of that. Some part of Africa do not subscribe to that idea. We don't think it is in the best interest of our public to say it because, if, for example, in Nigeria, a bank comes and tell you that, oh, we've lost over $1 billion overnight, you would be scared. Some people would go and withdraw their money quickly and
Sure.
say, "Oh, I have nothing to do with it." But that's not what we want people to do. Is the awareness we want to create? Is the risk measure you must also put in place, and the fact that at the pace at which the world is growing, you must also pace up when it comes to security. Don't be
Okay.
left behind.
Now, Allianz has a very specific set of, they have a very expert-based team, and they are all over the world. And I've just been going through your site, and I just looked at the business insurance claim here for cyber here, and I'm just looking through your claim services on the site. I'm not sure if you can see that. I believe you can.
Yes.
Let's talk a bit about cyber claims. What to do during and after a cyber hack is a video that you can find on their website. That's commercial.allianz.com/claims. You can find a video there so that you can have a better guide. And of course, Allianz have really great teams, highly experienced professionals that are there when you need them, should you choose to use Allianz to help your business. I have to say thank you to you for joining me today, Mr. Ikechukwu
Thank you.
Okugo here. Now, if you're just tuning in, we've been having a really interesting conversation on cyber concerns in the hospitality, leisure, and tourism sector with Mr. Ikechukwu here. And thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for taking out time from your busy schedule to talk to us about this.
Thank you so much, Titi. It was a pleasure.
At this point, we have to wrap up the conversation. But if anyone wants to reach you, how can they reach you? LinkedIn, social media?
We are available on social media. We're available on LinkedIn. Allianz, just reach out to Allianz Nigeria. You could also shoot us an email, info@allianz.ng. You could check out our website and contact us through that. We'll be available to have a discussion with people who want to know more about cyber risk.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. All right.
Now, one of the things that I love about 101 is we get to talk about topics that don't really often get enough attention in the press. Now, cyber attacks on the hospitality, leisure, and tourism sector have actually been a little more rampant than people are aware of. And their expertise, Allianz expertise in risk management, has shed the light on the critical issues facing this sector. And we covered quite a lot of ground, and hopefully we've been able to make some sort of impact, and you'll be having conversations and exploring strategies within your teams to help early detection, response, and make sure you have robust continuity when it comes to your business management. Now, if you would like to have a conversation with us, be on the next episode of 101, it's very easy. Just send us an email. That's dynamitepodcastnetwork@gmail.com, dynamitepodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Send us an email and we'll book you in. We also have quite a lot of activities happening in the podcast space. There are quite a lot of other conversations we have online as well. And we can't wait to hear from you. Okay, then, at this point, we're wrapping it up. Until next time.